Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you are. Welcome to the Vegan World 2026 Moonshot podcast. And today we are going to be talking about the convergence that's coming up this weekend, April 24th and 25th. And if you haven't registered yet, please do so as quickly as possible because it's filling up. Let me put the link on the chat. Veg sticks fine. And today I have BJ and Ray was there. So Ray will be coming on soon. So BJ has been working diligently in the background, getting ready for this convergence. And, it's been exciting.
Yes. Well, we have so many people who want to present. And then somebody will hear about it and, oh, well, then I have something to present. Or, oh my gosh, what if we got this person to present?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the way we are approaching it, because I really think that fundamentally, if the vegan movement is successful, we'll have a vegan world, right? So everyone who's working in the vegan movement, we want them all to be successful at what they do.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I love that. It's very supportive.
Yeah. So that's what this convergence is. We are going to be screening 3 documentaries. We're going to be introducing a new app, which is going to help with the education and the communications, and it empowers the vegan movement. So that's what we are trying to do in this convergence. And of course, from this point on, for every convergence, we are going to just track how well we are doing with those apps. So
Yeah.
you can see that because we have a roadmap, and we're going to present a roadmap as to how do we get to a vegan world by 2026. And partly, by the end of this year, we need at least 5,000 vegans on that app. Okay, so that's the goal.
Well, and we'll be signing up this weekend.
Yeah, people are going to be signing up this weekend, and then we're going to appeal to people to just get their friends to sign up, and start building up this network,
Right.
Independently.
And it seems like we have more and more people starting more and more pages and events, and so it is blossoming. I remember one time you said, "Oh, it's going to go fast when we become a vegan world." You said, "Tighten your seatbelts because."
Right. Hi, Ray and Kelly. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
I know Ray and Kelly. You've been with me for, I don't know, 6 years now, or 5-6 years. We've been on this journey together, and we've been watching the progress of this movement. And so, what do you think? How do you feel about the weekend convergence?
Well, the whole participation from I think the first time I saw you was when you were presenting to European Parliament before a Cowspiracy screening. That would be just before Christmas on 2015.
Right.
And discovered that we had something in common, that we were both part of the Al Gore's Climate Reality Leadership Corps,
Right.
and both somewhat disgruntled members thereof.
Right.
And invited you to come to Toronto. And you become such an inspiration to the activist community in Toronto, because that there is a very strong animal rights core of activists, and they've always had a really hard time reconciling their place with the environmental community, which really has kept us at arm's length. And the process to discover, feel that relationship and try to develop it, has been quite profound, because it's very revealing about the sort of things that control our society and want to try to keep us siloed so that change doesn't happen. And I think that everybody getting together for these kind of convergences, using the tools that empower us, even more so during a pandemic where, some people are out of jobs, and now we have time to really discuss the things that can start to make the society that we want rather than the society that we're given.
Right. How about you, Kelly? How has the journey been for you?
I mean, the journey's been fantastic. You have been one of my biggest inspirations. And I mean, when I initially went vegan, I knew one vegan that we was a neighbor when we lived outside of Toronto. And like, I know her now talking as a vegan and talking, and I know she's an ethical vegan, but at the time, she didn't talk about veganism that way to me. And I kind of wish she would, because I know just for myself, I would have been vegan a lot sooner. But when I went vegan, yeah, like I didn't know anyone. And then I quickly became activist, and I quickly became very pessimistic. I am burnt out and angry and bitter. And you helped me see the positive.
Oh.
And I think you're doing that to a lot of people as well. I think my only wish is that more vegans, I mean, we're all ethical vegans, but I think a lot of vegans sometimes just focus on the ethics part, and I wish more would start kind of giving more of their time to helping with the environmental message of why we need to go vegan. Yeah, but I definitely see how much this has grown, and again, it's actually not made me, scared and freaked out about the future and hopeful and wanting to be part of that change.
Yeah, for me, it was my granddaughter, So she's the one who said, relax, it's going to happen. So at least that, to me, that was the message I got just looking at her when she was just a month old.
Our children are adults, and they have no desire to have children of their own. They do not feel confident about the future, and like that makes me like sad, right? As a mother who brought them into this world, and so I want to show them that, like, even if that is the future, that I didn't allow that to happen. That I did my part in trying to change that. Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we are all doing our part, and I really think that having a child now is a sign of faith. Knowing what is going on, right? If you know what's going on and you have a child now, it's a sign of faith. I shudder to think what would have happened to me if my granddaughter hadn't been born, because I was going down the same rabbit hole of despair, and so she really literally pulled me out of my despair and said, look at it another way. Look at it this way. And you see that things are going to work out, that things are opening up. Because, fundamentally, how can the world not be vegan? You know what I mean? It makes so much sense from every angle, whether it's from the angle of animal rights, whether it's the angle of the environment, whether it's the angle of our own health. And why would we deliberately, completely destroy the only living planet in our galactic neighborhood? We can't, we're having a hard time even getting a helicopter to go up on Mars. And we think it's a great achievement when we get a helicopter to go up on Mars. We do it here all the time, right?
I'm sure we've all seen it too, because we've been all vegan for many years, right? Even when I first went vegan, which was a little over 7 years ago, like there wasn't a lot of vegan options if you go out. Now, I mean, it's everywhere now. It's mainstream, right? So that's very encouraging, and it's just snowballing. I see it. I just see it in the last year, right? So, like you said, Salesh, like how can we not? It's become more and more easier, more and more accessible, more and more. Everything positive.
Right. It's a no-brainer. It's becoming more and more of a no-brainer. Yeah. And I really think that within a couple of years, it'll be like, if you're not vegan, they're going to look at you like, what's wrong with you? And I'm looking forward to that day. It's inevitable. It's going to happen.
Right.
And this is part of what the Vegan World 2026 is about, is that shift from veganism being this fringe movement to being the dominant ethic. It doesn't necessarily mean that every last person on earth is vegan. but it's past that tipping point where it's now the incumbent ethic, and that rather than having a word to describe people who don't eat animals, have a word to describe people who still, for some reason, do.
Yeah. How about you, BJ? What do you see?
Well, when I first became vegan, which was 2011, it was through a spiritual person I knew online. I was plant-based, and she knew, of course, I liked animals, and she said, "Well, why aren't you vegan?" And I thought, well, I guess it's just the word, and so I thought, I guess I will be vegan because I do believe in not harming others. And but I didn't know anybody else around, so it was difficult. And compared to what it is now, it's amazing. Right. I remember when we first started hearing about the China study. And then we had the health a health conference here, and we had a health conference in Marshall, Texas, with Esselstyn's group. And then I remember the first time I saw in an HEB, which is our local grocery store, a magazine that had forks over knives and how to go plant-based. And so that was like shocking, a big change. And just recently, now we have a hospital that has gone vegan. I mean, the whole hospital has gone vegan. So I expect this to spread more and more. It's no more meatless Mondays. It's no meat the whole week.
Yeah, I think the snowball is growing and growing and growing. There's no stopping it. There's no stopping it. And so you're all going to get
really
swept up.
playing a part of that.
Right.
Like food's really playing a part of that, right? Even though the reason for the businesses making food is not for ethical reasons, it's for, revenue, money, right? But it's helping normalize veganism.
Right.
It's funny.
But fundamentally, when we talk about the foundational axioms, that's what I'm going to be talking about during the Convergence. How the current system is based on axioms that are false, which is why we think we are doing good, but we are destroying the planet because our assumptions are false. The system is based on just bad foundations, right? And so we really have to build it on correct foundations, which is what we are trying to do at Vegan World 2026. And when you build everything on correct foundations, then you just live your normal life and the planet should thrive. That's the way it should be, right? That's how that's when you're in alignment with nature. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about that too in the first hour. And then after that, Arvind and Nandini are going to present their documentary and their app, and we'll then discuss that. So it's 2 hours of that, and then we will have a screening of Cowspiracy with a Q&A with the producers Kip Anderson and Alita Breezy. So not to be missed, and it's going to be moderated by Jane Wells Mitchell.
Nice.
All right, wonderful. Well, and also, I'm so thrilled that Hereditary Chief Phil Lane Jr. will be there to share his wisdom. I mean, he knows so many people from so many parts of the world and has such a deep reverence for life. I look forward to hearing from him. And then Vincent Schilling, who is a delight to be around and has insights to share.
Yeah. It's really about all of us. To me, Vegan World 2026, a vegan world is really about coming back to our indigenous roots.
Yeah.
And which is why, because indigenous roots, we always had this reverence for nature, reverence for life, and which is what we are returning to. So we took a short detour thinking that life is just an object that we can play with and we can modulate and manipulate any way we want. And now we are recognizing that it is precious. And so this is why I think the contribution of the indigenous community is so vital to the vegan world movement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So that will be amazing to to hear their perspectives, and also all the panels that you're hosting, Kelly, the panel that you're hosting on Vegan Enabler. How do you get people to go vegan? Right? How do you help them?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, like we're talking about this, there's going to be a snowball of vegans, and we need people ready to help people when they want to make the transition, and make it easy and accessible. And so, there's people out there that's doing it now. And that's what I'm trying to do, is just gather those people into a network and learn from each other, learn best practices, so we can reach as many people as possible and be the most effective.
Right. Yeah. In fact, the app, the United in Heart app, should have a vegan enabler section, if you ask me. So we should add that in the next revision.
I know you had mentioned as well that there is an app being developed for vegan neighbors, and like same thing, like it should be, just connecting people as easy as possible to, vegans that are out there and ready to help people.
Right.
Because absolutely. I know, like for me, when I initially went vegan, like I didn't have a community. I like I said, I knew one person, but I was back in Toronto. She was an hour away. We weren't neighbors anymore. So I was alone. I didn't know anyone, right? And I proactively seeked out my community because I went vegan because of the Why Love One poster. So I knew about the safe movement, and I made an effort. I'm very shy, so like that was big for me. But like, yeah, I made an effort to seek that. But not everybody knows how, especially if you like don't just go vegan like I did for like a very powerful message, and you know where to find those people, right? They're lost. So we need to make it as easy as possible for people to find their community, find their resources, and get that support that they need.
Speaking about longtime vegans and helping others, Summer, it's great to have you here.
Wonderful to be here, Silas. Thank you so much. Hi, BJ. Hi. Hi.
How long has the journey been for you, and what do you see happening? How do you see the progression of the vegan movement?
It's been exciting. I've been involved helping put together the convergences for the last 3 convergences we've had, and I see the enthusiasm growing. I see us getting better speakers. Conversations are dynamic. I love our movement Mondays that keep happening, and it's exciting that we have this consistency, and it's clear. The more I attend and the more people I see, so many people are going vegan. Like the Rowdy Ranch woman. It's like we have ranchers that are turning their entire ranch. These cows going to go to slaughter are now, farm sanctuaries. So clearly, if ranchers can change, anyone can change, because that's their livelihood on top of their diet. So yeah, when I see that happen, it's like a no-brainer. I just spent the weekend or a couple of days with my dad in Vegas, and he was like, "What are you going to do about all these ranchers?" I'm like, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, talk to the Rowdy Ranch woman." I'm like, she's transforming even the ranchers. So it has to happen, with this COVID pandemic that just took place, another animal disease that's attacking the human species, but because we attack nature, it's the time is now. We have no choice. So it's either go vegan or, like you said, or bust, right? Vegan 2020 or bust. We have no choice. So we either have to get over our taste buds being more important than the survival of our species. And I won't even say that, in Vegas, of all places, there's 286 vegan-friendly restaurants. There's like over 50 vegan restaurants. In a place like Sin City, we've got like the vegans taking over. So clearly, the time has come. People are waking up. It's exciting. And the food I ate in Vegas, oh my God. We are not missing out on any food whatsoever. And these are, these giant hotels on the Strip. Full-on vegan restaurants on the Strip in Las Vegas. So Vegas can wake up, then the rest of the world can wake up.
That's great to hear. The last time I went to Vegas, I knew that Vegas had a lot of vegan options, vegan restaurants, but it's good to know that it's blossomed even more. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give some for,
Go ahead.
Was it Chaya?
Uh-huh.
No, I think, no, is it Chaya? Is that the name of it? The best vegan, just search for all vegan restaurant, all vegan sushi in Las Vegas. And Chikya, that's it, Chikya, Chikya vegan. Oh my God, the best sushi I've ever eaten. Like flowers that you can eat. It's just divine, delectable. So, yeah.
I find Cowspiracy couldn't come at a better time because that's seafood, like the vegan seafood market is like just set to explode. That's kind of like the last market of where we haven't had a lot of options. You know, and as more and more people watch Cowspiracy and go, I do not want to be eating seafood anymore. You know, so I'm very excited because that was the last animal flesh that I gave up before I went vegan was salmon. So, and we have one vegan sushi place in Toronto. That's it, like all vegan. And they have vegan seafood, and it's amazing.
You know, I thought I
could show that. Those are crab cakes dripped in hollandaise sauce. I'm like on a bed of mashed potatoes. That's at the Modern Vegan. So crab cakes, vegan crab cakes. We had vegan deep fried shrimp. It was amazing. So yeah, the vegan seafood movement is really happening as well.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Cowspiracy was an eye opener. You know, even though I thought I had been studying the environment for 14 years, I thought I knew a lot, but it still blew my mind the way they put it together, and it was incredible. You know that for 3% of the food we eat, we are destroying the entire ocean. It's only 3% of the food we eat.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, worldwide. That's it. Okay. 3% is coming from the ocean. And for that, we're destroying the entire ocean. And our governments are subsidizing this to the tune of $35 billion a year.
That's outrageous.
It is outrageous. It is outrageous. And for $30 billion a year, they could have fed the 10 million people who died of hunger. They could have fed them 3 square meals a day.
Right.
Okay. So fundamentally, we are making a choice that we'd rather that those people die and the planet die. You know, I mean, it's just mind-boggling that we are letting our governments make decisions like this.
A short-term living, short-term gain, short-term sensuous sensory pleasure.
Right. It's basically it's a ecological Ponzi scheme we are running. You know, where we are just liquidating the capital of the planet and distributing it as short-term income to a few people, right? To a few corporations, because they want to increase their short-term income. You know?
And aren't they killing people on these ships also?
Yeah.
They're like killing like some of the slaves that are working these ships. They just throw them overboard.
Right.
So that's
and that's not the only industry that happens in, as we know from Cowspiracy too. And I don't know specifically now how, except in indigenous areas where they're burning down the forest, they're killing people that way too by taking their habitat. And in fact, some activists have been killed. So it's
1,200. Conspiracy says over 1,200 activists have been killed.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Cowspiracy was eye-opening. You know, that was, but Cowspiracy is looking at how much destruction we are doing on land. And on land, you know, for 12% of the food we eat, we are using up 43% of the land area of the planet, right? And just destroying it. Whereas 85% of our food is already plant-based. So we are already a plant-rich diet. You know, we are already eating a plant-rich diet. So you don't have to go get any. I mean, I really think the only way out is 100% plant-rich diet. Go fully vegan.
Right. One of the stories you told one time, Dr. Rao, was about being with someone who was in a country where people were around you asking for money for food, and yet around them were trees. where
Right.
there was food. And I feel like that's one of the things we need to let people know. We can grow food to have. We don't have to be deaf to food. And where you can't grow one kind, we can ship another kind. But it doesn't have to be a modernized, uh, you know,
Food system.
food system. Right.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
And then
I don't know if I told you the rest of the story on that,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is, I mean, this was in Ghana, in West Africa, and I was noticing ripe papayas, ripe mangoes. The place is so fertile that anything you throw a seed on the ground, it grows. Okay. And so there were so many fruit trees all around me, and yet people were chasing my car, along with the NGO that I was traveling in a car. They were chasing my car to try and sell me some chips or something. And I asked them, so why are they doing that? And they said, well, they need to eat, right? And I said, well, look at all the fruits around. Why aren't they eating that? And it turned out, the NGO told me that they're doing that because in school, they are taught how to eat. So everyone has to go to boarding school in Ghana. It's compulsory. The government pays for it. And in boarding school, they teach you that the right breakfast is rice and milk. Okay? And the right lunch is this. So it's chicken, whatever it is. So they teach you what is the right thing to eat. And people think that's what I need to eat for breakfast. I need to eat rice and milk. And rice and milk does not grow on trees. So I have to now, sell stuff to people in order to buy rice and milk. So that's how we condition people into not seeing the food that's around them. And to think that certain types of food is more nutritious, is the right way to eat, as opposed to other types of food. And that's how colonialism is injected into people as children, because to me, anytime you tell people you have to eat animal foods to thrive, that's colonialism. That's lie. That's an outright lie to begin with, right? Because it's based on the protein myth, the calcium myth, and all those things. So, which we know are lies. When I first found out that they were lying to me in my textbooks, I mean, I got so mad. I think it's a crime to lie to our children in their textbooks. Why? Because some corporation wants to make more money, or some industry wants to make more money. They need to keep growing their economy, or whatever. Because that's what a Ponzi scheme does, right? So you have to keep growing, otherwise the Ponzi scheme collapses.
Right. Right.
And I think they're scared that when the Ponzi scheme collapses, if you look at all the Ponzi schemes that have happened in the past, anytime it collapsed, the people who are running the Ponzi scheme got thrown in jail.
Yeah.
So I think these people are scared that they're going to get thrown in jail when the Ponzi scheme collapses. So I think we need to convince them, we need to tell them, look, this time it's a global Ponzi scheme and there are no villains. We are all playing roles, and we will welcome you with open arms, into the vegan world, provided you become vegan and you do this. Stop wanting to run a Ponzi scheme, right?
Right, right.
And the good news is, all the food that they're eating, animal-based food, that's causing all the sickness. So they're afraid that they're going to get sued if they admit that they're wrong. But if we turn them into plant-based, we can cure all the diseases. So all the money that they're making, all they need to do is recognize that in the bigger picture, the long-term game, we can all be healthy. Our diseases can be, at least lessened, if not completely eradicated, by moving into a plant-based world. And then they can make a lot of people happy rather than making a lot of people sick with the business that they're in. So there's a way out. There's a way out for everyone. So that's the
there's a way out for everyone, and for the planet, and for the planet, and for all the animals, and so we can create a thriving planet, and with our presence, with what we are doing,
with evidence-based decision making. And you mentioned textbooks, things being wrong in textbooks, and sometimes it's the conclusions in textbooks. And I think it may be a watershed moment because of your paper being published, that a lot of evidence of climate science, it's more of a situation of direction. Like we're told to look at this science and not to look at this science. And the beloved industry of animal agriculture has been protected in so many ways because there's just this kind of groupthink not to look at it.
Yeah, it is the foundation of colonialism. It's the foundation of this current Ponzi scheme that they're running.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have animal agriculture, then you'll suddenly have abundance on the planet. And if you have abundance on the planet, hey, how can you value things, right? Because valuation depends on scarcity.
Right.
So that's the system we have created. Okay. So we say something is valuable only if it is scarce. So if food is available in abundance, there's no value to it. And who's making money out of it? Nobody, right? There's no value to it. So,
and have we reached that society of abundance? Have we and have not realized it because the people who control the narrative say everybody's got to work for a living. There's so much work to be done, yet there's not enough jobs. It kind of suggests that there's a new system needs to be made in which we acknowledge the abundance, and we have so much of our fear controlled by food itself, food security, water security, and we have the solution. We're going to be talking about the solution this weekend, and so many people perceive this as bad news, and so a lot of them are the same people who are panicking about the climate crisis, and we come to them and say there is a solution, and we haven't even begun to pursue it yet. There's lots of hope. Right. And they go, well, yeah, but you're going to ask me to give up my meat. Beyond the pale? Really? This is good news, everybody. But why the long faces?
Right, I know.
Yes, I just was reading, there's a new legislation in Colorado that from animal rights groups that will restrict things. And then this other group, the cattle group, they're just very concerned the direction that the world is going. And they have animal ag people keep giving them information that will be fine, they're wrong, and it'll take some movement of some of those that are aware to go ahead and transition out, like Rowdy Girl Ranch Advisory Group.
Mm-hmm.
And then more and more of them will. Well, back to the convergence that we're having. Mm-hmm. There are so many things besides, in addition to the food part, there's an eco-village, and there's governance, and there's new economy. And I think one of the things that I've learned that veganism can spread into broader things. I mean, I was just thinking of let's just don't harm the animals. And if we don't do that, we're also not harming humans.
Right.
But so much that that entails and can entail if we want to have a peaceful world is what I'm learning.
Absolutely, yeah. No, so I'm looking forward to all the presentations that are going to happen on these topics. And Ray also brought up the fact that the the position paper is going to be published. In fact, I got the first PDF for proofing of the position paper with the page numbers and stuff. Yeah. So
you need help editing that or reading through it? I'll be happy to help.
Sure. I'll pass it on to you. Yeah.
Awesome.
And is it coming out next month?
Yeah, it's coming out this month. Yeah, it's volume 32, 33 of the Journal of Ecological Society.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of books that are going to be written about it. So I got Camila, Dr. Perusello is writing a book on it, and Glenn Mercer is writing a book on it. So, and that we'll probably talk about that at the next Convergence when they'll be ready to talk about that work.
Right.
Well, it's good to get this conversation started now and on Unchained, because this is something that has really characterized the last 5 years of activism as I've been involved in it, is that even vegans have been told that their activism is bad if they don't cite the prevailing peer-reviewed evidence of what percentage of emissions attributed to climate change is. And we've seen that all across the board, up the scale of to top activists saying we have to adhere to these numbers. Vegan documentaries that still stick to these numbers, which I'm not a climate scientist, but I understand how there's a progress of science and it has moved on, yet nobody else has moved on. I've read the IPCC report that says that the current information, that figure is outdated at least. That means it's wrong. That means stop quoting it. And we now have a peer-reviewed article that we can now stop that nonsense and really get to talking about how do we change our agricultural system, because it's much more than 14.5%. It's much more than just a percentage. It's a full solution that includes more than one economic sector. This was the trick, to try to separate the sectors, silo them up so that there's no solution that looks more attractive than a renewable energy grid. But it's far more powerful. And again, I said that's good news, everybody. Good news to everybody except for people who are really dependent on everything in the climate change community staying exactly the same. Just feel helpless. Just vote for the right government and give money to NGOs and they'll solve the problems. No more.
Yeah, I talk about the burning machine and the killing machine in the paper, and and so the current discourse is really about fueling the burning machine and the killing machine differently. So if you could just do it with clean energy, we could just continue killing and we could just continue burning up the planet. That's the idea.
That's exciting too, because like Biden apparently is looking to end all subsidies for the oil industry and put it into green technologies. So that to me was like, ooh, well then maybe we're on the path to ending agriculture, big animal agro culture, I call it, subsidies, and putting that into, plant-based farms and organic farms and regenerative farming practices. So we're there. We're moving. We're slow, but we're moving.
Right.
and
Actually, Jane was mentioning that. Go ahead, Summer.
The more of us do it, the more the momentum grows. So it's happening slowly at first, and it speeds up. So we're close.
We need to make it a no-brainer for them, for our leaders. So I think the more we grow our movement from the bottom up, the more it'll become harder for our leaders to ignore us.
Mm-hmm. This past year, our Earth has heated up even more, even though we have used less fossil fuels. And that is confounding to the people who are not aware of what's going on and why we need to stop animal agriculture ASAP. So keep heating up.
Right. I mean, I see what the Earth is doing. Go ahead.
A question I had. So how much of the transportation and oil that's being used comes from the animal agriculture? Because we're moving these animals around, we're processing these animals. So how much fossil fuels are we burning just to produce animal food? I'd love to know what that number is, if anyone's done any studies on that.
Yeah, Goodland and Anand did a calculation on that. In fact, they are the ones who updated the FAO's numbers. So the overall percentage of CO2 that is attributable to the animal agriculture industry is around 29% of the total, just for CO2. And then there is methane, and then there is land use. I mean, when you start counting all of that, that's when you get the 87%, right? Because it's just a huge enterprise. And, and of course, Goodland and Anand were looking at data from the World Bank and trying to put it together. And no one has really done a thorough study because no one wants to study it. No one is getting any grants to study it. Right. That's the problem with science, right? It's whoever is distributing the grants, they control what kind of study gets done. And so this is how the colonial system is maintaining itself, so that it doesn't want to look at certain things because it knows people will discover that there's a Ponzi scheme going on, as if that's a huge, secret. It's not. Anyone can see that now. So the more we expose it, the more that we shine the light on the truth, the easier it will be for us to get back into a sustainable world.
I was proud of my dad. He actually watched What the Health with me this past week. I was visiting him, and he felt betrayed. He was like, at first he wasn't sure what was going on, but then when it came down to where all like the Breast Cancer Society and the Heart and Lung Society, all these different organizations that are supposed to be helping us, are being funded by the very industries that are causing the problems themselves. He was pissed. He was actually very mad. He was like, they're lying to me. I can't believe these are the institutions that we're supposed to trust, and they're the ones who are in the pockets of the diseases themselves, basically.
Have you watched Cowspiracy with him yet? That's next.
I have not yet. No.
He's going to find out about health and safety.
One movie.
That's what happens to a lot of these organizations, right? They become about making money, right? And this is why I love the Convergence, because right now I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on systems change, right? And the whole way of getting systems to change is to get people together for a common goal, a common purpose, right? Because the system's going to collapse. Systems aren't sustainable. They eventually collapse, and all of us collectively coming together for this common goal of a vegan future is going to put something in place that people are going to want to gravitate towards, rather than the alternative, which is not fun.
Right. It's really about building a new system.
Yeah.
And figuring out the foundations of that new system so that it is rock solid, compared to what we have built so far. This is why I feel like, things are happening the way they should happen. Because when Kimaya told me I'm not doing my job back in 2016, at first I was shocked that, that came out of the mouth of a 5-year-old. and then and I couldn't sleep that night. I was just tossing and turning, thinking about it. And then the next morning when I woke up, I realized she's right. It's my job. I'm a systems engineer, damn it. I am supposed to figure these things out as to how you put together systems that work. And so that's when I realized, we have to build something new that's completely different and that is founded on correct principles. Just like what I did with the gigabit Ethernet, I'm proud of the fact that this wire is running the protocol that was in my head 1996 and it's still there, right?
Yeah.
So that was, to me, again, it was the same kind of revelation that it said start over, do something different, do something better, and make it robust so that people can gravitate to that. And so this is what the Vegan World 2026 project has become.
And Dr. Rao, I think many of us have thought, what is our job? We see this crisis and we see that if we continue as we are, it's not going to be good. It'll be tragic. And so we ask ourselves too, what is our job? And I bring my teacher skills, and others bring their skills to see what part we can play. And sometimes I'm more on this side of animal activism, and sometimes I'm more on education side, but I know that I have a part to play. And I didn't know that before, but I do know I have a part to play, and each of us do.
Yeah, this is the second axiom, the axiom of Homo Ahimsa. True axiom of Homo Ahimsa is that all life is one family in which we each bring our unique skills to give all we can, receive all we need, and become all we are, which is the vitality code of Dr. Shelley Ostroff. I'm going to be talking about that during the opening keynote.
Excellent. And you will be at our Convergence too, along with Melvin Taylor, who I just love.
Right. Shelley's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to be talking about the World Water Law.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of conversations are based around, well, why not reductionism? Why not just reduce the amount of harm that each person does and it will work out in the end? That's not a movement. That's not, surrendering yourself to something that's bigger than just you. Being part of something that's a movement is so much more profound. And it's kind of funny that organizations like Project Drawdown claim that they have identified solutions that exist, but they haven't identified veganism. That is a solution. What they've identified is a plant-rich diet, which is, I had to do a little digging to find out what exactly that meant, and it meant 2 ounces of meat per meal, 2 ounces of animal products per meal, which is about half of what the average is. So in other words, their solution was to reduce our consumption by half. But that's not a movement. There's nowhere where the half consumption people meet, right? This is what we're looking at is a time where there's all these graphs, these exponential graphs that say now it's time to change, and everybody's looking to figure out anything but a complete change. They're trying to hold on to what's familiar,
right? And
veganism is scary in that respect. But once you get here, honestly, it's exciting to be part of.
It's great. And that drawdown, you don't have to read the book to see and to find out that even their number one pick when you put them all together is plant-based, but they have them so sectioned out that you won't know it unless you figure it out. You won't know that that's the number one solution. And that's even only eating, like you said, half, cut down half. So why didn't they just do the whole thing? It's crazy.
Right. Because the system depends on us, pretending that it's necessary to eat that. Mm-hmm. That's the lie that we've been told in textbooks right from the outset.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Summer. Sorry.
The quality of people in the vegan movement, right, are just amazing. Like a really quick, sweet story. This couple was sitting next to us at the Modern Vegan, a restaurant in Vegas that we went to. And we bought a lot of food, me, my dad, and my husband. We brought even 2 extra meals to go. And this couple, we were just talking a little bit. Maybe we spent total a minute talking, sharing, exchanging. Know what they did? Before they left, they paid our bill. They didn't even let us know. It was over $100 our bill. They didn't. They were just being sweet. They said goodbye. They were really nice. I cried. I just couldn't. I was so touched. So, I mean, you are not going to see that in a meat-based, beer drinking, burger eating kind of reality, because it's all about what's in it for me. Where in the vegan world, it's like, what's in it for each other? It's all about togetherness in the vegan movement. So it's just so touching. I'm gonna share that story again and again and again. His name is Dwayne. That's all I know. His name is Dwayne, and they recently got married. A couple from New Jersey. I was so touched. And from New Jersey, they think the East Coasters or whatever maybe aren't as nice, but no, they're wonderful, wonderful couple.
Awesome.
If you need friends, what's that, Emily?
I was gonna say, I think the COVID has shown as well, like, all the news is reporting about like the isolation and the depression and the anxiety that people are feeling being isolated. So more and more, I think people are going to be like seeking out that community that, like, right now, as so many people are in lockdown. We're in lockdown here in Toronto, and our lockdown's just been extended, right? They're going to be seeking community, and the vegan community is definitely a strong community, and people just getting fed up, with all this, and hopefully doing proper research of like, well, what can we do to make sure this doesn't happen again, and finding out that, yeah, it's because of what we do to animals, and, you know,
Right.
that is causing it. So, I mean, we're so fascinated with like apocalyptic movies and like, you know, all these things and these futures, you know, but like we don't really, people don't really want to live that way. We don't want to live Mad Max or Hunger Games or whatever, right? You know, and so like you said, you know, the key is like finding something better, and that's what we're doing. We're showing that, you know, we don't have to even go, like we have something you can very easily put in place that is better.
Right? Well, that's an interesting point, because we've talked about how Jeremy Light's book, The Patterning Instinct, kind of leads to 3 outcomes. One in which we get it right, and that's the vegan outcome. And the other 2 are, Selesh kind of paraphrased as Hunger Games, where there's a huge division between society, and Mad Max, where it's a free-for-all and a fight for survival. And usually Hunger Games is on its way to Mad Max. But I think a lot of the narratives that are happening right now are playing off our fears and saying, if we're going towards Hunger Games, make sure you're part of that elite community, right? And you know, those other communities will have to fight with each other, and that's just the way that it goes. That's like a lot of really admirable people have really taken that idea that climate change is going to run its course, and people are just going to have to die, and they've resigned them to death. And that's not the best route. It can't be the way that we come to conclusions. We have
as an engineer, I can tell them that if you think you can let a nonlinear feedback loop like that go on to the point where 7 billion people have died and then start controlling it, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
You have no idea what nonlinear feedback is. And so the best way to address nonlinear feedback loops is to reverse them as soon as possible. Like today, you know, don't wait, because we don't know. Nobody understands. Okay, so anyone who pretends to understand is a charlatan. You know, they're lying to you. So this is why letting nonlinear feedback loops, like the ice carbon bomb in the Arctic, letting them go, saying, "Oh, it's okay, you know, it'll settle itself later." You have no clue.
Right.
They have no clue. Okay, so they're just lying to us when they say that. And so they just don't want to give up their power. That's really all it is. You know, they don't want to give up their Ponzi scheme. That's all it is. So we just have to say, forget it. You know, I mean, I don't believe you anymore. We're going to have to do things our way and get things sorted out and reverse this nonlinear feedback as quickly as possible. And to reverse it, you just have to bring back the trees that you cut. This is not complicated, right? We cut half the trees on the planet. We know that. And we know that every tree can sequester like 1 ton of CO2. So 3 trillion trees, 3 trillion tons of CO2. This is not complicated. Okay, so we can literally reverse climate change by just bringing back the trees.
Wow.
And
one of the gifts that you've given the animal rights community is that you brought this systemic perspective into what usually amounts to a vegan strategy that's like a shampoo commercial. They told 2 friends and they told 2 friends, and so on and so on and so on. And that you have to, you know, be so determined to change every individual in front of you that you create this, you know, this crucible of pressure. Whereas when you look at systems and how they change, there's good news for veganism all around. That exponential tell 2 friends concept is so much pressure on you, so much pressure on the person that you're doing outreach with. This is a way of looking at systems for change, and really we're existing in a time when the change is going to happen.
mm-hmm.
We don't have to be smug and say that we made the change happen. We just need to be smart enough to see that it's happening. And you see the symptoms of change and observe them. We are part of that turbulence of the status quo that needs to shake that machine, and we're going to shake it to pieces. But it's everybody together that's doing that. A lot of different forces, and some of them are the machine just shaking itself apart because it's an old, obsolete monster from the
Right.
industrial age. We're in the information age, so here we are on a bunch of square windows on Zoom solving problems when
Right.
it's really for the time. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
Awesome. On that note, join us over the weekend, and there'll be lots of squares on the windows. It's going to be solving problems for us. So please join us. It's going to be exciting. It's again, this is part of a progression of convergences. So if you were there before, please join us again. And I'm going to post the link again. I'll post it right there. Bit.ly. And I look forward to seeing you all.
Yay.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
See you soon. See you this weekend.
See you weekend.
Bye.